Good evening, everyone. I hope I am audible. I am unable to see any comments, so yeah. So, good evening once again, and it is so good to be on Edu Planning Pods. Thank you to Sana for inviting me. And I am Ishan Sharma. I am a young writer, a heritage activist, and I founded an initiative called Karwan, the Heritage Exploration Initiative, where we are trying to promote the idea of history and the importance of heritage among young students. I also wrote a book on Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam in 2017 when I was 16 years old. The title of the book is The Teacher I Never Met. Tomorrow, as we all know, 15th October is the birth anniversary of Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, which is celebrated as World Students Day. So today I will be talking about my guru, my teacher, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. We all know he was the president of India, he was a great scientist, but he always said, always remember me as a teacher. So for me, he will remain a teacher. So I I am I am very happy to be here once again. So as we all know, the onset of 2020, we all witnessed street protests across the nation. We witnessed farmers' protests in India. We witnessed many changes. I think that was very unnatural, but um, we are here stuck in a pandemic. 2020 is, if you say, a very rough year. But this is also the year in which India is supposed to be the youngest nation in the world. We will be the youngest nation, as in we will have the largest number of youth in the nation, and that is something to be happy about. As I say, India will be the youngest nation with the oldest civilization. It is a country which proudly celebrates the unity in diversity. We are united. Today we have the largest youth population in the world, and we have the oldest civilization in the world, which was the Indus Valley civilization. India is a nation of various cultures, geographical features, and also political opinions, and we'll come to political opinions later. We gained independence from the British Crown in the year 1947. Of course, it was a political freedom, and then by revolutionary struggle, which was started way back in 1857, or even before that during the tribal uprisings in various parts of the nation. Today, India is a developing country. It has been more than 70 years since we gained independence, but largely we have remained a developing country. Though we came up from underdeveloping to developing, that's something to be satisfied about. But the youth of India, we want a developed nation. And this was the idea of Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam when he talked about India 2020 in late 90s, when he made the document called Vision India 2020. Now it is a book which he authored with, I think, V. Ponra. So Y. Rajan and V. Ponra. So you can go and check out that book. The first spark of a revolution always comes from the young part of the population. There is no universal agreement on what youth are, which age bracket we can call the youth of the nation. Some people say that the youth is more a state of mind than time of life, like former United States Attorney General Robert Kennedy said, the word demands the qualities of youth, not a time of life, but a state of mind, a temper of the will, a quality of the imagination, a predominance of courage over timidity, of the appetite for adventure over the life of ease. Indian youth. We are revolutionary. My years in Delhi University are manifesto for the ignited minds we have in the nation. Delhi University is said to be the best educational institution, maybe one of the best, and students from all across the nation take admissions. And in my journey in Delhi University, I've seen great ideas emerging from students about various problems that are being faced by us in this nation. Moving over, to delve more into the topic revolution, one must understand what revolution mean. It People might think we are asking for azadi, as many say, for our motherland, but many are asking for azadi in our motherland. Freedom for patriarchy, feudalism, caste system, communalism, and other social issues. We want economic freedom of the nation, like to be economically developed by the end of 2030. 2030, 10 years from now, this is the time when India will have the youngest youth population, and by 2027, I think approximately 2027, according to some United Nations reports, the youth population will start decreasing. So we have approx 7 to 10 years to develop this nation. So how we have to do that? How can we achieve the dream of India 2020? Can we achieve it? Is it possible to be achieved? Because many people still think that the vision 2020 was over ambitious. But I say that it was something of, you know, you can say it was over ambitious, but at least some people tried to dream, and that is one of the success mantra of Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. You have to have a dream before you can make it true. The dream of Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam was India 2020. Until his last breath in IIM Shillong in 2015, he always tried to make India developed by reigniting the young minds of people like me and people like you. In various schools, various colleges, various conferences that he was part of, he always talked about the India of his dreams. He talked about five major sectors where we, the youth, can make great wonders, and because of those five, sectors, India can lead the world. So the first was the agriculture and food processing sector. That where the vision is aimed at doubling the present production of agriculture and food processing. However, in today's India, we are struggling in the agricultural sector. Second is infrastructure with reliable electrical power. That is providing the urban amenities to rural areas. That is the Pura, an NGO that he founded, and also it aimed at increasing solar power, high-tech science, and technology operations in rural areas. The third, and I think it is one of the most important as per the contemporary times, that is education and healthcare. The aim directed towards literacy, social security, and overall health for the population. In India, the public health sector is very much in a crisis, even, especially after the pandemic. So the need is to develop our health and education sector with the help of the young minds. Maybe we can focus upon the Ayurvedas. That was one way, Indian indigenous healthcare systems were pushed ahead. So Ayurveda should be promoted, and there are many more ideas on education that I might speak later in this lecture. The fourth point is information and communication technology. It is for increased e-governance to promote education in remote areas, telecommunication, and telemedicine. And the fifth, the last, is the critical technologies and strategic industries, that is, the growth of nuclear technology, space technology, and defense technology. These were the five core areas in where we need revolution. Now, if you go and read Vision India 2020, the book, you will find 10 points that Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam mentioned, and I'll read out those 10 points for you all. The first point is a nation where the rural and urban divide has been reduced to a thin line. All parts of India will become developed. The second point is a nation where there is equitable distribution of and adequate access to energy and quality water. The third point is a nation where agriculture, industry, and the service sector works together with symphony. That is, all three sectors of Indian economy should work in symphony with integrity. Like, it should not be that agriculture is doing fine, the service sector is doing okay, but the secondary sector is not doing okay. That might create an imbalance in the economy, and that might lead to the crisis in the economy as we face today. The fourth point is a nation where education is with a good value system. you know Value system is very important. So a nation where education with a good value system is not denied to any individual, any meritorious candidate, because of societal or economic discrimination. That is, equal opportunities for all. Then fifth is a nation which is the best destination for the most talented scholars, scientists, and investors from around the world. Sixth is a nation where the best of healthcare is available to all citizens of India. Seventh is a nation where governance is responsive, transparent, and corruption free. Eighth, a nation where poverty has been totally eradicated, illiteracy removed, crime against women and children is absent, and no one in the society feels alienated. A nation that is prosperous, healthy, secure, devoid of terrorism, peaceful and happy, and continues on a sustainable growth path. See, even the United Nations says that we have to follow a sustainable growth path because the resources are scarce and limited, but the human needs, the human population as it is increasing, the requirement of those resources are increasing. So we have to focus on sustainable growth plan. And the final point of his vision was a nation that is one of the best place to live in and is proud of its leadership. If you compare today's environment, today's contemporary India, you will see that we have failed to achieve even 4 or 5 aims out of these 10. And the reason is not just the government of India that keeps changing every 5 years, but the reason is there's lack of enthusiasm among the people of India. No, we cannot just, you know, say that it is government's fault. It is also our fault. There's a balance between the people of India and the government of India, and they all should work together to create a nation, an economically developed nation, actually. And I believe by 2030, that is 10 years from now, India will be the economically developed nation as Dr. Kalam wanted it to be. The secret ingredient that was missing earlier was the youth of India. And now we have that. The need of the hour for the government, for the people of India, is to do a review mission on how things are presently and should work towards making it better by 2030. And maybe by then we'll achieve 7 to 8 of these goals. At least we should have a dream, we should have a vision for the nation of our future, for the nation of our dreams. So I think whoever is listening to me, the young people especially, should come together. We have to make India an economically developed nation, an inclusive nation for all, which is non discriminatory, without any discrimination, societal or economic, a nation which is open for all, it is developed, and where energy, electricity, quality water, healthcare, education, job opportunities are available to each of its citizens, especially the young citizens. Now, coming to a very important topic, that is, as I mentioned, the political opinions in the beginning. You see, India is a very, as we say, it is a very big country with more than 640 million youngsters. We all have different opinions, and I think that should be the case in a democracy. Every opinion should be respected, and the diversity in opinion is one of the key characteristics of a democracy. So, as Dr. Kalam said, the nation is above all political structures. But political structures are the structures that passes, or that legitimizes your what you can say, the ideas for a developed nation. Like, every law has to go through, if you want to make a bill into a law, you have to go through the parliamentary proceedings. So political structure plays a very big role. Majority of Indian youth who do not know the depth of they do not know the political depth, you know, of ideologies, but they are going towards rather a new or emerging mixed ideology, taking good things from every political ideology. However, the true liberal doesn't exist in India as far as I know. In fact, it never did. No one is unbiased. We can say less biased, but technically it is impossible to say that someone is unbiased. But I think that will be a great thing for India in future, and especially in the political structure. So, moving ahead, the avenues that I discussed are very difficult for the nation to achieve in the next 2 years or 3 years or even in 10 years. But the youth is revolutionary, and the upcoming decade is really very decisive for us. Today, the currency is not performing good as it should be. We saw great tragedies, especially the recent Hathras rape, that is very disheartening. We do not have enough beds for patients and not enough number of doctors in India. We are trying to improve the state of education by introducing new policies, especially the NEP 2020. And today we are facing many challenges which we as a citizens with the government have to fight with. There are challenges in agriculture, like last month we saw the farmers protest in Delhi and elsewhere in the nation. Not just here, but there are challenges in cyber security, and we have to fight with these challenges. So this is the reality. According to Kalam, he said that we have to do it. It is the time for the nation and its leader to take up a review mission, as I mentioned. And India can achieve, there is a possibility India can achieve the mission of a developed India with zero poverty, 100% literacy, quality healthcare for all, value added employment for every citizen consistent with his education and professional skills. When I was reading about Kalam in 2016, I started reading about Kalam when I was in class 6th, and he was visiting IIT Kanpur where I used to live. So it was the convocation, he was the chief guest. I saw him at a distance of around 100-meter or 200-meter. I couldn't meet him. So that was the idea behind my book, The Teacher I Never Met. But his knowledge, you know, the radiation, the good radiation, the vibrations of his knowledge, touched my soul. And from that day, I made him my guru, you know. So I learned a lot of things from him, and I would now wish to tell you some lessons from his life. The first lesson that is very important and very close to my heart is you should know how to celebrate failures. He used to tell a very important, very, very interesting anecdote from his life that one day he was made the project director, mission director of SLV-3, the first indigenous missile of India, and the launch vehicle SLV-3 in 1970s, I believe, if I'm not wrong. And Satish Dhawan was the head of the DRDO at that time. So there were months of, you know, work behind SLV-3. On the launch date, when it was going to launch, the counting started T minus 5, T minus 4, T minus 3. At 2 1, the computer said, don't do it. There was some leakage or some, technical issues with the SLV. The computer said, please drop it, don't launch it. As the leader, Dr. Kalam had to take a decision whether he should go with the launch because thousands of rupees, lakhs of rupees were at stake, or he should abort it and do it the next time. Dr. Kalam decided that he should go ahead. He launched the SLV-3. There are four phases of a launch of any missile. The first phase went well, second phase went perfect. In the third phase, it started rolling. And after some time, it went way into the Bay of Bengal. It was a massive failure. Thousands of rupees, lakhs of rupees were into the Bay of Bengal now. Dr. Kalam was really depressed. He was really sad, and he was about to resign at that time. So he asked Satish Dhawan that what should he do. Satish Dhawan said, "Don't worry, Kalam. You sit back. I'll address the press conference." So Satish Dhawan went ahead, addressed the press conference, said, "Yes, it is a failed attempt. The SLV is now, crashed, but the next time it will be a success." When the next launch was scheduled, it was a major success. India was one of the big leagues now when SLV was successfully launched. Now, when they had to conduct the press conference, he asked Dr. Kalam to address the press conference. So, the first lesson is you should know how to handle failures. And as a leader, you should take little more credit of the blame and a little less credit of the fame. So that was one of the lessons that Kalam, inspired me to write about. Another episode is when he wanted to be an Air Force pilot, fighter jet pilot. He appeared in the exam somehow by selling his sister's jewelry. He appeared in the exam. He cracked the exam. It was the interview time, and out of, I think, if I'm not wrong, if I'm not forgetting, out of four, three were selected, and the fourth one was Kalam Saab. He couldn't get into NDA and be the Air Force pilot. That was his dream. And he met Swami Shivananda. He told Shivananda that Swamiji, I wanted to be Air Force pilot. I couldn't. What to do? What should I do? I have nothing in life. I failed everything. Swami Shivananda said, it is not in your destiny. You are destined to be far more than this. And I think only Shivananda ji knew that he would be the president of India someday, a great scientist, a great teacher. So always remember, you are destined to be good, something way better than what you are today. So always keep dreaming. You must have dreams, and not like the dreams you see while you sleep, but dreams that don't let you sleep, that make you work even harder than today. So I think that is one of the most important, another important lesson that I learned from Dr. Kalam Saab. When I talk about leading the nation, the youth going to lead the nation, a question that often pops into my mind, and that I think most of you must ask, is who is a leader? Who can be called as a leader? Can we call me a leader? Can you be a leader? What are the traits of a leader? There are 6 points, not six, but I think 5 points of who is a leader. First is, a leader must have a vision. Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam was a leader. He had a vision for India. Vision 2020. Second is, a leader must know how to travel the unexplored path, the road less taken. That is the second trait of a leader. He should not be afraid to think out of the box, way beyond the conventional, the conventional ideas, and the normal ideas. It should be somebody who can think out of the box, out of the leak, something extraordinary. The third point is, as I already spoke about it, he should know how to manage success and how to celebrate the failures. That is a good leader, a great leader. The fourth is, a leader must have the courage to take decisions. Without the decision making trait, a leader is worthless. If he is just about talking, talking, and talking and not doing, then he cannot be termed as a leader. The fifth point is, a leader must know how to work with integrity and succeed with integrity. When I say work with integrity, succeed with integrity, I mean a leader must take everybody into consideration. Yeah, and inclusive, I think, inclusive ideas for development, where nobody should feel alienated in the nation. So these were the 5 points of a leader. Now, as I am already way above my given time, I would end by saying that Kalam was not just a human being. He was an idea of how you should, an idea of a great leader, an idea of a simple human being. Once in IIT BHU, when he was in the convocation, he was offered a bigger seat. But Kalam said, please remove this seat. I want to sit in the normal seat, equal to all others. See the simplicity. He was in a event, I think in Meerut, where the light went off. There was no mic to address 400 students. So he went between the students to talk. He said, come and, surround me. And he started speaking to them there. Such is the simplicity of Kalam Saab. So today, when I remember him as a teacher who taught me many great things. How to lead a life dedicated to the nation, especially to the idea of a developed nation. Every young every young citizen of this nation has to come together at one point of time in the next 10 years to lead the nation, to lead the world, because we are the future and it is in our hands the destiny of the nation lies. We have to come together to make Dr. Kalam's dream come true, to make this nation an economically developed nation, and to be a good human being, if you can say. With this, I would like to thank Sana for this opportunity, and I would like you all to work towards making India a developed nation. If you have ideas about India in 2030, share with me on my email address, that is ishansha@gmail.com, eshansha@gmail.com. I would love to hear from you all. Jai Hind and all the best to all of you. And I hope Dr. Kalam is watching us all and he is happy to see young people like you all working to make India great. Thank you, everyone.